On the other issue that I mentioned, marijuana legalization, you now have a number of states, seems to be growing rapidly, where use and sale is legalized in a lot of circumstances, a lot of money changing hands because of that, but then banks unwilling to do business with these now legal purveyors of marijuana because of the threat of federal prosecution for money laundering, because federal statutes still suggest that that might be criminal. What's going to happen with that?
Well, we're in the process now of working with our colleagues at the Treasury Department to come up with regulations that will deal with this issue, where you have businesses that are recognized by state governments generating cash as a result of the sale of a product. And you don't want just huge amounts of cash in these places. They want to be able to use the banking system. And so we will be issuing some regulations, I think, very soon to deal with that issue. But we're working with, as I said, with the Treasury Department.
That sounds like a pretty significant accommodation of this new development of extensive sale of marijuana.
Well, I'm not sure it's significant. It is an attempt to deal with a reality that exists in these states. There's a public safety component to this. Huge amounts of cash, substantial amounts of cash just kind of lying around with no place for it to be appropriately deposited is something that would worry me just from a law enforcement perspective.
But it wasn't that long ago, if I recall correctly, that the administration actually expressed concerns about some of these early state legalization moves, and wasn't willing to say even that there might not be federal law enforcement applications even around the sale in some of the early part of this process. So this sounds like or is this an evolution of the position of the administration around an inevitability around the legalization of marijuana?
Well, we've said pretty clearly that we are going to continue to enforce the Controlled Substances Act, but we have 8 factors that we have laid out that will trigger federal involvement. For instance, where violence is used in the sale of illicit drugs, where drugs are sold to kids, where there's interstate transportation of them, where it's somehow connected to cartels. Those are the kinds of things that will involve the federal government, whether it's marijuana or not. Typically, when you talk about small marijuana cases, those are things that the states and the local authorities have traditionally handled. And so what we're saying in a very clear way in a document that the Deputy Attorney General released, these are the factors that will bring into play the federal government. And so we will see what happens in Washington. We'll see what happens in Colorado. I've had conversations with both of those governors and said that we're not doing anything now with regard to our preemption authority. And we'll see how these experiments go and see what positions we're going to take ultimately.